Crypto Highlight News.
Well, while there's much debate about whether Bitcoin will ever become a mainstream currency, central banks are exploring the technology behind it, the blockchain. Experts say, just like the internet, it could shake up the world as we know it. David Chow reports.
Imagine a world without banks, accountants, and insurance companies.
Does your insurer help you?
Where you can buy a house without real estate agents.
Where do we go from here?
And borrow money without having to go through financial institutions. That's the vision behind DeFi, or decentralized finance. Blockchain technology was first created to buy, sell, and mine Bitcoin. Since then, other cryptocurrency platforms have taken it further, like Ethereum, which allows decentralized financial services on its network. But first, here's how blockchain works. Blockchain stores all the transactions ever made in blocks. That means information in a particular block can't be rewritten. It must be stored in a new block and added to the chain. When a transaction is made, thousands of computers race against each other to solve a complex maths puzzle to verify it. Once it's verified, the information is shared across the network and a new block is added to the chain. By decentralizing that information, it's harder to tamper with. That's supposedly why you can trust it.
With decentralized finance, we're seeing really a parallel banking system rise up together with the existing banking system, and it remains to be seen how big it becomes.
What's special about Ethereum is that users can build dApps, or decentralized apps, on its blockchain, like software that runs on a computer. These dApps are powered by smart contracts, which cut out middlemen like bankers and lawyers who are there to manually verify that both sides have fulfilled their end of the bargain. Instead, the terms are in code, which have been programmed to, for example, transfer money into someone's account automatically when certain conditions are met.
The cryptocurrency world is heavily manipulated. There's no doubt that there's a lot of manipulation going on, and it's effectively operating in unregulated space.
DeFi is a fast-growing market worth about $50 billion. You can exchange cryptocurrencies on platforms like Uniswap for stable coins like DAI or Tether, which are supposedly pegged to the US dollar to reduce volatility. And there's platforms like Aave, which allows you to anonymously lend or borrow crypto.
If you're investing with a cryptocurrency because you want to make a quick buck, well then you're just as likely to lose that buck quickly. Nobody ever went to the trouble of setting up a cryptocurrency as a philanthropic project in its entirety.
Also on Ethereum's blockchain are NFTs, or non-fungible tokens, which are shaking up the world of art and collectibles. Even the source code for the World Wide Web has been turned into an NFT, a digital certificate of ownership that can't be forged or tampered with. The world of mainstream finance also wants in on the action. The Reserve Bank is testing the idea of a digital Australian dollar, while countries like the US and China are also looking into something similar. Blockchain is also being used in the meat export business. Warwick Powell's company tracks cows from Australian farms to other countries to verify the quality of the meat.
People can independently interrogate the claims that are being made by suppliers about where something's from, what it is, when it was done, who it was done by.
The ASX hopes to launch a blockchain clearing system in 2023 to make buying and selling shares more efficient. But it's still early days for crypto, blockchain and NFTs, so be mindful of the risks.
Well, let's get more on NFTs, or non-fungible tokens, which are revolutionising the art world. As David was explaining there, they're unique and authenticated by the Ethereum blockchain, so you can prove that you own the original. NFTs can also contain smart contracts that give the artist a cut of the future sale of the token, as Amelia Terzon reports.
Jess Lambie has sold this painting twice, once as a physical canvas and again as a digital reproduction with a token known as an NFT.
The original painting sold for around $950 and then the NFT sold for $1,200. It sold for more than the original painting did from the exhibition, so that was absolutely insane.
The concept behind non-fungible tokens has gone mainstream since the artist Beeple sold this digital piece at the auction house Christie's.
I didn't quite get that I could paint something and then mint it and turn it into an NFT art. Like the entire concept of that didn't make sense. That virtual token is the verification of that artwork, and inside of the blockchain it has all the information. It has the artist, it has who's bought it, how much it went for.
America's NFL is also getting in on the craze with sports collectibles. Grammy winners Kings of Leon have used the technology to release an album. And the founder of Twitter has sold the rights to his first ever tweet as a token. Jess Lambie's friend Tim Meyer is finding the digital space more lucrative than the traditional art world. Every time his NFT artworks get traded, he gets a cut.
Those pieces get resold, and when they get resold, there's a commission structure.
That gives him a steady income.
Now you've got a space or a whole kind of ecosystem that's teaching artists how to monetize.
Blockchain experts say that even if the bubble bursts, the concept is revolutionary.
I think the hype is a really strong signal of underlying trends that are significant and meaningful and here to stay.
The trend is still in its infancy, so there's also many legal questions over true ownership and copyright.
There's definitely so much catching up in terms of the law and this space around blockchains, considering how fast the space is evolving.
The token trend is already before our eyes. This piece at the National Gallery of Victoria in Melbourne is by the internationally acclaimed artist Rafiq Anadol, and he says from now on everything he does will come with an NFT. An art movement for the digital age.
For further analysis, I was joined by entrepreneur, investor and corporate advisor Mark Carnegie and Professor Ellie Rennie from RMIT University's Blockchain Innovation Hub. I began by asking Mark how big a challenge DeFi will be to the traditional banking model.
Well, I think it's going to be a huge threat over time. What I've said, and I'm on the record as saying, is I can't tell whether the whole of the crypto bubble comes and goes and everyone loses all their money. And what happens is the incumbents modify their existing systems and procedures enough to make that happen, in which case still the world's a better place, but the crypto investors have got wiped out. Or, in fact, some of the models like Ether have got enough momentum about them to genuinely become a big part of the world financial system.
So what do you see as the benefits of decentralising the banking system, Mark?
I think it's just going to take frictional costs down.
Ellie, you're working at the RMIT Blockchain Innovation Hub. Do you think it's possible to safely decentralise the banking system using this underlying technology of blockchain?
I think it is, and I think it's already happening. It depends what you mean by safely and for whom. One thing to keep in mind with these protocols is that they're open source, so it's quite transparent. You can see the code. But as a result of that, you also get others coming in and copying that code who might not necessarily have the same responsibilities in how they're doing it.
Well, Mark, I know that you recently set up a new digital asset fund which holds some Bitcoin, which is for more of a momentum trade. But what sort of interest are you seeing? What sort of investors are coming into that?
The core of what we're doing is finding wholesale investors who want to find a mainstream fund manager who's willing to go into this space. And our product promise has been that if you put a material amount of what are called stable coins into a portfolio at the moment and stake those stable coins, you end up being able to create what the financial people call alpha, that is undiversified returns. And people are finding that an appealing thing to look at. There are a whole series of young people who are crypto natives who know exactly how to play these things, have got their own interest in what they're doing, and part of it's investing and part of it's like a day at the races.
So, Ellie, what further innovations might we see in this space?
What we might see, I think, coming out of this increasingly is integration, not so much with banks necessarily, but maybe neobanks that are giving people the capacity to earn greater interest through these protocols, through what are essentially automated processes going on in the background.
But Ellie, just on safety, what happens on the Ethereum blockchain if your money goes missing?
Interestingly, there is a native insurance industry emerging. Companies like Nexus Mutual, which can give you some kind of coverage when you're using certain protocols. So in that respect, we're beginning to see these ancillary services that I think are quite necessary for a healthy financial system emerging. But yes, there is still a huge amount of risk. But at the same time, what I think I really want to reinforce here is that these protocols are not necessarily owned and managed in the typical way that we think of financial services. There's huge communities of users and they have power over what happens with these systems.
Also, Catherine,
yes.
I think people have got a very short memory if they think financial systems are safe. Look at the GFC. In the end, the government had to step in to guarantee the world financial system. It's safe because they decided to print money. It's not safe because it's safe. The fraud that happens all the time is safe because you're essentially charged huge amounts of insurance embedded in all the fees you pay all the time.
But Mark, what would you say to someone like Nassim Taleb, who says Bitcoin is a failed notion of a currency without government, it's not a store of value, it's unreliable?
Being digital native, understanding what is going on in this space is immensely important. And, you know, Nassim understands the arguments and the frailties of Bitcoin, but I think he's done an incredibly poor job of continuing to understand the rest of the decentralized finance. I can show you examples at the moment where somebody can more easily turn Bitcoin in Australia into local currency in Burma in the face of a government crackdown than they can use any traditional system at the moment.
Well, Ellie, let's talk about NFTs. How much growth do you see in this area? I mean, we've seen a lot in the art world, but it's really going further than that now, isn't it?
I do expect more growth in the creative industries. Beyond what we're seeing in digital art, I think anything that actually creates a digital twin that ties a thing to a contract that shows ownership is going to benefit from NFTs over the long run.
I agree with her about NFTs, but I'd go even further there, where I think that your ability to reimagine intellectual property in a crypto world and then morph it or graft it back onto the real world, nobody's really spent the time thinking through how that's going to play. And there is a huge amount of running room in that area.
Well, the options seem unlimited right now. Mark Carnegie and Ellie Rennie, I'd like to thank you for joining us on The Business.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Catherine.
And that's all from the Business Crypto Special. For more on those stories, you can go to our website and click on the business page. You can also watch the show anytime on iView. I'm Catherine Robinson. Thanks for your company.